Okay, well, welcome again, and continuing on the amazing journey that all of us are on. You know, when you consider the fact that basically you're in the same realm as if you were in a spaceship, Starship Earth is what you're on. You're traveling at 40,000 miles an hour through all kinds of interesting and exciting things whizzing by in all directions. And yet most people walking around out there pay no attention, which is sad, because there comes a time in the evolution of the planet and the evolution of the universe when things suddenly impact and change radically the environment and change even the social structure and the electrical patterns that are inherent in the human brain and in all brains, actually, all living things. And that's what's happening now. And so what we've been looking at is documents that were written thousands of years ago and somehow found their way into all of our cultures. And in Muslims, they have the Quran, and they have the sutras of Buddha and the Vedas of Krishna and all of these things. And of course, we have the Bible in the Western culture. And then, yet the stories inherent in these things are so silly that they defy logic totally. But yet, why are they so important? Who did them? Who put them together? Why are they so much a part of the cultures, and yet so terribly misunderstood? But it doesn't, as we've seen, take a whole lot to get behind the words and realize that there was indeed an advanced civilization from another dimension, another planet, and another place, which I believe was 4555, which is pictured here on the wall, who came to this earth and left these writings in deep symbols. And so then you would say, well, why didn't they just flat out tell everybody what was going on, and why put it in symbols? Which would be akin to you taking a child to kindergarten or the first grade and start teaching trigonometry or algebra. They haven't reached the point where they can understand that yet. But if you come around when they reach the 8th grade and start teaching algebra, fine, you can do it. So all of these things relate here. But not only is it interesting when you begin to find out what was being written about, but it's very interesting when you start saying to yourself, well, then who were these people that came here and wrote these things, and how did they get here? And of course, for so many years, we've been consumed in the fact that, well, they had to take spaceships, which would take them so many light years and, never get here, never get back, until we found in December when in Innsbruck, Austria, they teleported photons and showed us that, indeed, it is feasible and technologically possible, according to Dr. Zellinger, to teleport a human being from one galaxy to another instantly. Forget the speed of light. You're here, you're there, and that's the end of that. So, we start to realize how much we don't know when we look at these things, not only as we start to develop new information and start to learn of things. But last week, we looked together at one of the most awesome things that has taken place in our studies as children, as people, growing up in religious circles. We provided information to you that was quite convincing to suggest that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ is a myth of natural power that takes place within the human body and within the universe. That's a very tough statement to make when you have people running around upstairs, going to church and ringing bells and singing hymns from the Middle Ages. And yet it's so beautiful, because once you realize it's a myth, then you can say, oh, now I know there's something true behind this, because a myth is a wild story written in symbols that has at its root deep truths about the human body and about the universe and about science and spirit. That's what a myth is. It's not a crazy story that doesn't mean anything. It's a crazy story, yes. But once you get past the craziness and once you get past the illogical rapport in these words, you find something that is tremendously real, having to do with the cosmos and your brain. That's what happened. You remember when we talked about 4555, and we spent 2 years here talking about 4555 and this galaxy, and then I was able to connect 4555 to the supernova, which interestingly we did on April 5th, which was 4-5. But then right after that, what happened? Right after that, in my job, in fact, I have to go away this week to Alabama for that job, but in my job, one of the things I do for this Comcast cable is I check all of their towers to make sure that they're properly registered with the government. And the one, when I was managing the cable system up in Brick Township for 22 years, the tower there, when we went to register and we'll look at its latitude and longitude and all of these things, they showed it to me, and there the latitude on that tower was 4555, 4555, which is the only one. This is a picture of 4555. It's a galaxy. So why is 4555 such a big deal? Because according to the Coptics of 2,000 years ago in Egypt, they said, hold this number close to you, 4555. And then, of course, in the book of Daniel, when the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had come out of the furnace, there was this word scrawled across the wall by a hand that had no arm on it. You want to talk about a myth. Mene, mene, which means number. But when you look at in Jewish and Hebrew and in Greek, and you look, each letter has a numerical value. And the value of M is 40, E is 5, N is 50, E is 5. And there it was again, 45, 55. So we were able to develop circumstantial evidence. And basically that's what you get when you go into these things. You get circumstantial evidence. I think that the fact that I was working on 45, 55 for all these years, and you were coming in here and we were working at it together, and we saw it in the Bible and saw it in the Coptics, and then lo and behold finds that I was sitting there at that latitude in Brick Township for 22 years at 45, 55 becomes a little more than a coincidence. Okay? And now we point out Supernova 1987A as the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And we pointed out that these are the two eyes because the entire process takes place in the skull. We learn this from all of the scriptures. Golgotha means skull. Calvary means skull. He's the testator means skull. Everything happens in the skull. So then we say, well, in the skull, that which deceives us and that which steals life from us are the things that we see. So, okay, then the two eyes would be the thieves, and the center eye, the pineal gland, would be the Christ. That makes sense. And that would be enough, maybe. But that's nothing, because what we're predicating this on is the appearance of the supernova. I don't know how many of you people have seen this. But this is the supernova, 1987A, which is the thing. And there you see the two eyes and the single eye in the center. This was taken by Hubble. Okay? This was taken by Hubble. It was on the front page of National Geographic. And I would even dare to say most New Age people who dabble in this stuff haven't even seen this thing. What's the sense of going to all these meetings? What's the sense of reading all these books if what's happening, the big stuff is happening in the sky now and nobody's paying attention to it? Who cares what somebody said 10,000 years ago anymore? The important thing is what's happening now. And so you look at this and then you say, gosh, now I know what the crucifixion is. The crucifixion actually is what happens inside of the human skull in meditation. But more than that now, not only does the human skull meditate, but now the cosmos is in meditation, and the pineal gland of the cosmos has appeared. And the crucifixion of the cosmos is happening. So you say, all right, that's what I'm saying happened. That's what I'm saying this was about. I'm saying that Supernova 1987A is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So it's all a myth. I know it's difficult, but what I'm telling you is never was a man named Jesus Christ. That's what makes it so wonderful. Because by knowing there wasn't a man named Jesus Christ, you realize there is a Jesus Christ, because Jesus is the Son. That's what the word means. If you take the numerical value of the Greek letters J-E-S-U-S, it comes down to 888, which in Greek is the mythical Son. How can you read things written by the Greeks 2,000 years ago and take them literally? You can't. They didn't write literally. They were great mythologists. They were great scientists. They were trying to tell us something. And the word Christ means the anointed. The sun anointing, the solar plexus energy in meditation rises to the brain. On its way to the brain, it hits something at the hypoglossal nerve called the olivera body, the olive. You get anointed with olive oil as it runs through the oil of the spinal canal. It impacts the brain. That's why Jesus went to the Mount of Olives before he went to the cross. This is real stuff. But what have we done with it? God can't forgive you for going to Atlantic City, so he had to nail this guy up and have blood all over the place. And once he sees the blood flow, then he says, now I'm happy. What kind of stuff is he? A human side. So we understand, and we're understanding astronomically what this is. We understand this is true. This is real. This really, really happened. But what happened? Now, I told you about 4555, and we had documentation about 4555 coming with this tower thing. What happened with the crucifixion? What happened after, was it last week or the week before, we talked about, and we proved that the supernova 1987A is actually the crucifixion with the two eyes and the third eye in the center. What happened 2 days after that? What comes up in the Associated Press, which you have on one, in the Bible. Before we do that, if you have the Bible with you, go to page 807. 807. Okay. And don't look at the Bible as a religious book at all. Look at it as a symbolic book of great science and great astronomical wonder. On page 807, it says in Matthew chapter 27, verse 51. Do you see it there? It says, this is when Jesus is crucified. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain, which is King James' way of saying was cut in two. The curtain was torn in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks were split, or the rocks rent. Now that's what it says happened after the crucifixion. Now we're saying that supernova 1987A is the crucifixion. So do you have the stuff with you? Look what it says on page 101. What happened 2 days after we talked about the crucifixion? On page 101 of the stuff we give you, Paul Risser, the Associated Press, San Diego Associated Press, astronomers for the first time have cracked a curtain of interstellar dust known as the zone of avoidance that blocks Earth's view of a fourth of the universe. The veil, the curtain of the universe, was cut in two 2 days after we talked about the curtain here, being the supernova 1987A. This isn't a New Age thing. This is the Associated Press. So then what do we have? We have the Associated Press, AP, telling us the curtain of the universe is torn. We have the scientists showing us supernova 1987A as the crucifixion. Something is happening over your head right now. It doesn't make any difference what anybody else said. It doesn't make any difference what they write, because the people who have written the things you're reading don't know anything about this. Because it never happened before. The curtain was just cut last week. How is it in a book? Look through all the books you want that you have in your library. Look at all the books that you have when you go to you'll never find anything about this because it happened last week. It's happening now. It's as new as what's on CNN. When you go home at CNN, they may be, but there's more. Because now, if this is true, what it says right after that is the earth did quake and the saints came out of their graves. Now don't worry, Uncle Charlie's not going to get out of a grave down at the cemetery and all these people are going to come walking up Route 532 with white stuff hanging out of their ears and everything. It ain't going to happen. This is all symbolic. It's not real. It's not literal. Don't take it literally. Okay? So we have a confirmation that comes from the sky. I don't take confirmation from New Age groups. You know? I don't take confirmation from fundamentalist groups. I take it from science. If it doesn't come from science, I don't even consider it. Because I spent my whole life with religious people telling me this was going to happen and that was going to happen, and if you do this, this would work, and if you do that. And then when I got in more New Age circles, the same people were coming. Only thing is they said I had to put a rock on my head or I had to wave a feather or something like that. But the same thing was going to happen, but it didn't happen anyhow. Didn't happen anyhow. And so what I found out then, that I don't have to do all of this stuff, because what I have to do is begin to understand nature, begin to understand the cosmos, begin to understand the universe and flow in a harmony with it. Then I will understand all things. Now I know what it means the curtain is torn, because it was our time to see it here. And science has seen it. We had the crucifixion, and now the curtain is torn. So the myth is starting to unravel itself in a true way. But there's something about this that I wanted to go over with you, because it is very, very important. Do you remember we compared the supernova 1987A with the story in the Bible about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? You've read that. I mean, you've heard that story since the time you were a kid, say. And this is the reason. Supernova is on fire. It's the third eye. It's the pineal gland of the cosmos, and it's on fire. It's like the sun. It's the light coming down on the earth. And remember what they said about supernova. And you've got it documented from Hubble and from Dr. Goddard and from all of these people at the Hubble and the Space Lab, that the light from this is to turn into a celestial ring of fire and hit the Earth around 2002. Okay? All right. So we said, okay, supernova will be the... So in the book of Daniel, this would be the same as Daniel, because what happened to Daniel? He was put in the lion's den, which is Leo, which is the pineal, which is supernova. Okay? Then we went over and found in the human brain, the pineal gland has a straight line, and it's called stria pinealis, which goes to something called the fornix of the brain, which is the furnace. So we said, gosh, if Daniel and Leo is the lion, is the sun, that could be the supernova, which is on fire, the pineal, then Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, in the fiery furnace, the pineal gland, the fire from the pineal gland goes along the stria pinealis, this is in Stedman's medical dictionary, to the furnace. So the fire lights the furnace. Okay. So then we got a connection. But more than that, what we found in the sky, and we showed, you got the star map, is that from supernova, which is in the large Magellanic Cloud located in the constellation Dorado, there is a straight line that goes to the constellation Fornax, which is the furnace. So we said we not only have it in the brain, we have it in the sky, exactly the same. So, as it is below, so it is above. Okay, fine. So we find that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, what happened last week? The scientists were able to look in. Now listen very carefully. This is very interesting. When the scientists looked in through the torn curtain of the zone of avoidance in the universe, according to the Associated Press, on page 101 of the stuff that I gave you, what does it say? It says astronomers, for the first time, have cracked a curtain of interstellar dust known as the zone of avoidance that blocks Earth's view of a fourth of the universe. They looked in past the furnace and they saw the fourth. Okay? Now, go to page 726 in the Bible. On page 726 of the Bible, it says in the book of Daniel, on Daniel chapter 3, that when they had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace, it says in verse 25, they looked in the furnace and said, I see 4 men. In verse 24, it says, didn't we put 3 men in there? But now we look in and we see the 4th. The scientists last week, folks, not 2000, the scientists last week looked through the curtain which was torn and they saw the 4th. Okay? I mean, you know, it's all coincidence and it's all a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. It's real. It's true. It's happening week by week. The fourth of the universe revealed things to the scientists that they had never seen before. Last week, when the curtain of the zone of avoidance in the universe was torn and they looked in there, they saw the fourth of the universe they had never seen before, and the first thing they saw was 102 new galaxies that they never knew existed. It's on that material. Such is the zone of avoidance. And where is your zone of avoidance? The right hemisphere. The right side. The place where all of the religious groups say, don't go there. You've got to avoid getting involved in that. You'll be in a cult. Right? That's the part that religion says you must avoid. It is the zone of avoidance. It is beyond arachnoid. Because remember now, you have a zone of avoidance and you have a curtain in the sky. And they just cracked the curtain in the sky and they just looked into it. But what about in your brain? In your brain, you have the outer covering of your brain, which is called dura mater, which means hard mother. You have the most sensitive inner part of your brain called pia mater, which is tender mother. And pia mater and dura mater are separated from each other by something called arachnoid, which is the web, or the veil, or the curtain. So exactly as in the universe they have a curtain, you have a curtain. Exactly in the universe they have 12 signs of the zodiac, you have 12 cranial nerves. Exactly in the universe the sun right ascends onto June 21st when we have the longest day of the year. It's today. The Son of God, the light of the world, God's only begotten Son, ascended from December 21st when it was crucified on the cross called the Southern Cross. It then went into the tomb of the earth 3 days and 3 nights in the winter solstice. It was born out of the tomb on December 25th, and it celestially right ascended to the north, to the eastern sky, where it sat, and today it sits at the point, sitting at the right hand of power. It is the longest day. There is more light on the earth today than any other day in the year. Today. And what is on your right side? The solar plexus energy rises up through the spine, impacts the pineal gland, goes along the stria pinealis to the fornax, which is the furnace, lights the furnace, the fourth man, lights the right hemisphere of the brain, and you pass from the winter of your life to the spring, to the summer, when all things become new. What goes on in the universe goes on inside of your brain, because your brain is a miniature universe. It is exactly the same thing. You know, the funny thing is, before the scientists were able to cut the curtain, the veil that separated the left side of the universe from the right, they didn't know that anything was there. If you go to all of these people in their churches today and tell them that you meditate to reach the right hemisphere of the brain and say, don't go there, avoid that, they don't know anything is there. But when the scientists looked in, what did they see? Galaxies upon galaxies with billions of new stars and hundreds and thousands of new planets and galaxies. They never knew were there before. Most of you went to grammar school, you went to high school, some of you went to college, and you know what? You studied science, and it was all wrong. It was all wrong. They told you how many planets there was and how many galaxies there was. Baloney. Go back. Tell them, I want my money back. You're wrong. You missed the whole thing. A fourth of it, they didn't even know was there. Because you know why? You only have you have activated in you 10% of your brain used, and in the universe you can only see 10% of it. 90% of the universe is missing. Do you remember that scientific program we showed on television here that Sunday morning from ABC? And what did the scientists say? There's a little bit of the universe missing, like 90%. Only those who look. The zone of avoidance is similar to the scripture in Jeremiah 12, which talks of God's pleasant portion, which has been made into a desolate wilderness, because no one goes there. How did the scientists find that fourth of the universe, Lester? They looked. They had never looked. They had never been able to see before. They didn't have the tools that they could look in, and you have the tools now that you can see. But who tells you not to go there? Why is it that the right side, the right hemisphere, the inner part of the brain, which is the part of God, why is it desolate? Why is it a wilderness? Go to page 633. In page 633, look at the book of Jeremiah. You might even want to read it together. If you want to, whatever. But look at Jeremiah 12. Tell me, who keeps people from experiencing the right side? Who keeps people from seeing the new galaxies, the new stars, the new enlightenment, the new winter? In Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 10, what does it say? Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. They have trodden my portion underfoot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate it mourns to me. The whole land is made desolate because no man lays it to heart. Nobody goes there. Why? Because the pastor said, don't do it. You'll find demons there. They're nuts. They wear robes. They have stained glass in their windows so they don't see what's outside and what is really going on. Only those who are seeking to right ascend can enter the zone of avoidance, can see the miracles, can see the wonders that are yours simply by rising up and sitting at the right hand. Only those seeking the crucifixion who will rise up to the place of the skull. Mount Calvary. You know what Calvary means? The word Calvary is a Latin Calvaria. Do you know the word Calvaria? How many in this room know that you have a Calvaria on top of your shoulders? You do. The Calvaria is the dome of your skull. It's in Stedman's Medical Dictionary. That's Calvary. It means the skull. When you rise in meditation and you bring this up to the highest place of consciousness, you are rising up to Mount Calvary where the two eyes, the two thieves are crucified with that which is the center, the pineal, the light of the world, and then you rise to right ascend to sit at the right hand of power. That's what this whole thing is about. And as you're doing it, remember, the universe is doing it right now and we're seeing it. Now there's something else that I wanted to show you about Supernova 1987A in addition to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the tearing of the curtain, okay? And this is important too. First of all, what you have in that documentation about supernova is that, well, maybe you want to look at, if you're not sitting, if you don't have this stuff, I would appreciate it if somebody that does have it would just show you this. If you look on stuff 91, you'll see something very interesting about the middle eye, the third eye, the pineal gland of the supernova. On page 91 of this material, okay? Because on page 91 from USA Today, the scientists tell us that it is turning into a celestial ring of fire, okay? And it says its light should intensify over the next decade. We are seeing the hammer hitting the bell. So what has happened is the middle eye is on fire. So we have fire here. That fire, that ring, is supposed to complete at a particular time. If you will look at page 99 of this material from Hubble, on page 99, the astronomers say the debris is expected to collide with the inner ring as early as the year 2002, which will light up the dark nebulosity. 2002, the light. And there's another guy, George Sunbaum, down at the beginning of the next, where the letters are big, causing a final burst of light visible on Earth, and he says about 2005. So, you know, it's a guess. But anyhow, light is going to be visible on the Earth around between now 2002 to 2005. And this isn't from a New Age thing, folks. This is from Hubble. Okay? This is from NASA, National Aeronautics and Space. These are guys that are the smart guys. These are the wise men. Okay? They know. Okay. So now, what happens? Jesus states that he's the light of the world. I want you to show something. We're saying that, okay, this is Jesus Christ. There never was a person, we're saying. We're saying now that the second coming of Jesus is actually the supernova 1987A, which is the third eye, which is visible on the Earth, and is going to send down light upon the world between now and, say, 2002. Well, if you look on page 873 of the Bible, Jesus makes a statement. He says, in John chapter 8 and verse 12, there it says, Jesus says, I am the light of the world, and he that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have light. So here's Jesus saying he's the light of the world. All right? That's fine. Now, If you look on page 1002 of the Bible, in Revelation chapter 1, and you look at Revelation chapter 1 and verse 7, it says, behold, he comes with clouds. That means something is going to happen in the sky, and every eye, is that all right? Every eye shall see him. Okay? Something is going to happen in the sky, and every eye shall see it. Now this looks like the pineal gland of the brain, the single eye, the supernova. The only statement in the Bible, the entire Bible, that refers to the single eye is made by Jesus in Matthew 6:22 when he says, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light. When you look at page 91 of that material, that supernova, the center eye, the single eye, is becoming a celestial ring of fire. It is the center eye which is lighting up. It is the center eye which is on fire. It is the single eye which is now becoming the celestial ring. And according to the scientists now, between now and 2002, every eye that is upon the earth will see this light. Every eye is going to see this light. And it's going to be the single eye. You're going to see it. There's no way you can help but see it. It's going to be visible on the earth. The celestial ring of fire, which is going to come from supernova. It is the crucifixion of Christ because now the curtain is torn. It is the furnace of Daniel. It is the lion of Daniel. It is the lion of Judah. How is it the lion of Judah? Because the lion is the sun. It is the light. And Judah is a tribe in the Bible that says there was 186,400 people in that tribe. Numbers chapter 2, verse 9. That's the constant speed of light. It is the light that is traveling at that speed from supernova to touch the earth. And when it touches the earth, it is going to hit the human brain, and it is going to trigger gates in the human brain all over the place. And people are going to start saying, what the heck is going on? What is going on? And then all of the traditional things which have been so important to us will collapse. And the new will begin. So you see there, I showed you documentation from the scientists that as early as 2002 this is going to light up, and the earth is going to see this thing. Every eye on the earth will see this supernova on fire. Every eye that is on the earth will look and will see this thing glowing in the sky. Every eye. Nobody will miss this thing, and it will be the single eye. And then they'll look in the scriptures, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light. Your single eye, which is the pineal gland lighting up, this single eye, which is the universal pineal gland lighting up. Is it just a coincidence? Why isn't this on fire or that on fire? Why is it the center eye that's on fire? And isn't it wonderful? Because you remember in the story when Jesus was born, the Christmas story that you sing all the time, who came? Did the pastors come? No. Did the priests come? No. Did the rabbis come? No. Who came? Astrologers from Iran, the wise men from the east came. It's the same thing now. Who's seeing this? You can go into any church, nobody knows this. Who's looking at it? The wise men. The Dr. Geoffrey Marcy's and Paul Butler's and Gary Toller's and all of these guys from Smithsonian. The wise men are saying this, and they're telling everybody. And if you go and tell your friends who got to, oh, stay away from that stuff. You know, it's like living in a house and somebody's rearranging the furniture and changing the lights upstairs and you don't go up to see what's going on. It's your place. You live here. You don't have to read books and all this stuff about it anymore because there's nothing in those books. Get inside of yourself and get the truth. That's where it's coming from. The light is coming down. It's coming down to... You have a light receptor in your body. The light receptor is the pineal gland of the brain. That's where the information has to come from. How are you going to go and read it in a book or going to go to someplace and have somebody tell you about it when it just happened last week? They don't even know it happened. When you go, whether it be a New Age place or you go to a religious place, go in there and tell them about this. I can guarantee you they're not going to know what you're talking about. You're a teacher. You're a guru. Tell him. He's not going to know. Because it doesn't fit with all of the things that we learned in these different places. Nothing fit. Because it's all over with that stuff. It's a whole new deal now. It has to come from within. The information has to come from within, and it'll pour out of people. Then it's the fire, isn't it? Didn't you say didn't it say it's on fire? And it's going to be a celestial ring of fire between now and 2002? Look what it says in Luke on page 848. In Luke chapter 12, verse 49, what does Jesus say? I am come to send fire on the earth. And what will I be if it is already kindled? What's he talking about? Well, those crazy people that really read this literally are waiting for an Armageddon. God's planning a nuclear war. It has nothing to do with that. Fire is it's magnetism. It's the electromagnetism. It's the light that comes down from the nova, which will impact the brains, open gates, and change the direction of things. Change the direction of things. I was watching this week with on television. I saw this guy, the senator in the United States Senate. The guy that's the head of the Senate, his name is Trent Lott. I don't know if there's anything connection with that place. But anyway, his name is Trent Lott. He's a great senator. And he's saying that all gay people are like alcoholics and kleptomaniacs. You know? So I wrote him. I couldn't wait to the day. Where's my email? I'm a boom, boom, boom. And I wrote, I said, Senator Lott, you said that homosexual is a sin because it's in the Bible. Let me tell you something. And I sent this to all the senators. Did you also know that God looked around to find the one person that he was most proud of and he could trust to put together the most beautiful, prestigious, classical Bible in the world? And he found him. And he put together the King James Bible. And his name was James the First. And you know what, Senator Lott? He's gay. No, I say that God must have said, you know, hey, Jim, I like you, Jimmy. And when James called it the King James Bible, God said to him, no, it's the Queen James Bible. Now, I'm teasing. So I said to, you know, Senator Lott, look, there's 2 books you can document this in. The Wisest Fool in Christendom by William McElwee or King James by Antonia Fraser. I said, go ahead and look. So I said, Senator Lott, whatever your name is, if it's good enough for God, shouldn't it be good enough for Republicans? Shouldn't it? See? And so, you know, but it's just ignorance. It's what people don't know. They walk around with this book under the hand and everything they believe is the Bible. I've got a Bible big enough to choke a mule and I believe in this Bible. This is the Word of God and this is the Word of God. But the Word of God was written by a gay guy. And they're going around, you know. So anyhow, that's the way it goes. So all of these things we looked at and we see this scene is upon us because this is the important part of Supernova 1987A. It says that if we say that this is the light that's coming upon the earth. Now, I didn't say that. It says it in the material you have. Dr. Goddard and all of these people say that. That this light is coming to the earth in 2000. The light is coming at 186,400 miles per second to the earth, okay? That means it is the light which is the lion, the speed which is Judah. It is the Lion of Judah. It says in the Bible that the one who opens the 7 seals to pour the 7 seals out upon the earth is the Lion of Judah. So we're looking then to say, yes, what will happen now is that this light that is coming down upon the earth from supernova will open the 7 seals. So we looked and we saw the first seal was open. And the white horse came out. And the white horse was given power to conquer. But being conquered were death and illness. It's a great time of enlightenment. And that's what's going on here. We're conquering ignorance. We're conquering, and we're about, you know, you're just a few probably months away from the big announcements that are going to come down in the newspapers. You're starting to see it already about cancer being conquered and about AIDS being conquered and all of these things. They'll be healed. See? Because it's this enlightenment. I mean, you don't have to go home and light candles anymore. But remember, you people have been on the earth for 500,000 years. And it took you 499,900 years to make a light bulb. But after that, you get very smart. Because everything had changed. The Aquarian factor has started to move the angle of light coming down to impact the earth. What happened? A new angle of light came down, hit your brain, and caused an arc in the receptors of the brain, opening gates, and then suddenly you knew how to make a light bulb. In other words, it all came from an arc angle. Okay? When the arc angle came, that caused this change, and we were able not only to make light bulbs, computers, trains, planes, cars, all of this stuff. And it's not stopping, it's accelerating. And now the scientists that work in the laboratories are starting to find out how you can kill cancer. It's amazing. But that's what's all predicted on how all of these things are going to happen. And that white horse is the first seal that comes out, and he conquers. But he's conquering disease, he's conquering death, he's conquering darkness, a time of great awareness. See? And it says in the book of Daniel, in Daniel 12:4, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. And you know, gosh, when I sit... we have this website. When I sit in Forked River and type this on the website and get people from Kuala Lumpur and the Philippines and Persia and Hong Kong reading this, I can't believe it. How could this be? But it is. It's true. Knowledge. I mean, in the old days, remember, you're going to look something up. I'd have to get a Bible, and I'd have to get another book and another book. Now, I get all the books on a thing like this. And I just hit a button, zingo, and it tells me, you want 1,000 books right now, here they are. And whatever you want to know, instantly knowledge is increased. This is an end-time statement in Daniel. Knowledge shall increase, the white horse conquering ignorance. And then there went out a second horse, which was a red horse, and power was given him to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And here we have the color red. And the color red is the color of the emotions. You know, it's like the bull. You know, the bull sees red or whatever, and you see red, hey, you know. And this is part of the problem, because even though at this same time when science is discovering so many things to make life wonderful, the emotions of so many upon the earth have exploded in confusion and in violence to make life terrible. And basically it returns to the myth of Venus, the goddess of love, intercoursing with Mars, the god of war. You know. And was it the guy that wrote the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? Basically that's the story. Love intercourses with war. There's a violence in the midst of the discoveries to heal. You're living right in the middle of the second seal. Everything coming down from Supernova 1987. And you see it. It's not just now because kids are bringing AK-47s. I mean, that's nothing. You get 5 kids that shot people, and that's terrible. But that's nothing. What about all of the presidents and kings who dropped bombs on people and killed them by the millions? Oh, when they dropped atomic bombs and killed whole towns and millions of people, we had a parade. This is wonderful. You know, whether the Germans, they were killing people, and the Japanese and the Americans and everybody had a flag up. Oh, this is wonderful. The kid shoots somebody. Oh, this is terrible. It all depends how it fits into our social scheme, whether it's acceptable. It's just a traditional thing. So right now, then, we're on the verge of curing AIDS and cancer, but we're also on the verge of such violence inside and outside of the human mind. It's a time of great confusion. Even, you know, you feel it yourself. You're not even sure yourself. You get home and you can hear this, you can hear that, you talk to people. But when you get home all by yourself, you're not sure. Where are you going? What are you going to do? What are you here for? And now you're on that point where you can absolutely be restored back to your home. Because there's not only just one of you. There's 2 of you. There's another twin of yours that you don't even know, living someplace else. And the only reason you don't know about that twin is because you're encapsulated in this 5 senses. You say, I can't remember. In the Quran, it says, everything God creates is a twin. We have one of you living here on 4555, ready to return at the point of enlightenment, and the other one of you here. This is great. See, that's the funky stuff that I can't prove to you with any guy from NASA, but I mean, it's the real stuff. Remember that we showed that in Zechariah, the man on the red horse among the myrtle trees, and the myrtle trees were sacred to Venus, and of course the goddess of love, and Mars, the bringer of war. So much that is wonderful and beautiful at this time is mixed in with so much that is violent and horrible. And then it said in Revelation 6:5. Let's take a look at that if you want to. It's on page 1005. And when he had opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd beast say, come and see. And I beheld in a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts saying, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that you don't hurt the oil and the wine. Well, the black horse is a symbol of the intellect. Black is a symbol of human intellect. Okay? When you have, for instance, the sun which rises in the east, okay, and looks down from the east, but as it begins to encroach towards the west, it goes down in the west, and it is overcome by that which comes from the west, which is the black. And that's symbolic of that even in the lining up of the tribes in the desert. Notice he has a pair of balances in his hand. It's a point of decision. And if you look at page 95 of the material that I gave you, it speaks of 45:55, and it says, hold this cipher in your hand. This is a decision for you. That's a decision for you to make. You can decide you just want to come and listen to me, and, which is meaningless. It's meaningless. The point that you have to work on is saying, okay, let me start to see if I can make contact through the pineal, through the light rays that are coming down now. Let me see if this starts to make sense to me. I showed you documentation. I don't know how we could have documentation any more confirmed than when I showed you a document from the Federal Aviation Administration saying that the latitude where this tower is that I had charge of for 22 years was 45:55. Nobody else has that. And so it's confirmation, and it's kind of encouraging you. Look to this place. Look at this place as the source of your home, as the source of the light, as the source of the people who are coming to this earth. The color black, that intellect, see? So during this time of confusion, healing, and violence, there'll be opportunity to people to weigh what is happening. And this is where your opportunity is now, to come to the inner harmony of this descending light by meditation. And that's where you come in to guide those who'll be looking for understanding. People will come to you to say, what the heck is going on? What are you talking about? Because the confusion and the falling down of things will be so tremendous. I mean, the year 2000, even the most intelligent and the most optimistic and the most credible people are not sure what's going to happen to the computers that run your whole life. Your lives are not run by people, they're run by computers. And if the computers don't click in, at 2000 the planes can't take off. And industry can't run, and food, and all of these types of things that are... What happened? And they're not sure. They're not sure. A measure of wheat for a penny, says, and wheat is bread, it is the body, it is the intellect. And it says 3 measures of barley for a penny. Do you remember the communion story of Osiris? See, you go to church, people go to church and they take Holy Communion. Well, when you talk to them, tell them that I said, better not. Because that started as cannibalism. That's true. That's what they used to... They used to take one guy in the tribe, the smartest guy, and kill him and eat him. Because they felt that if they took into them, they'd be as smart as this person. So the whole tribe would gather around. We're having a barbecue tonight. Charlie's not going to be there. And they would eat. But you see what happened in the cult of Osiris came, and the cult of Osiris tried to put an end to this barbaric practice of eating people to get smart. And so what they said was that what came out of the ground in the form of wheat was the body of Osiris. The wheat was the body, and the barley was the beer. And they made bread and beer, and they would take it, and they were taking the body and blood of Osiris. Well, when the cult moved to Greece from Egypt, it was no longer Osiris, it was Dionysius, and Dionysius was the god of wine. So they didn't take bread and beer, they took bread and wine. And they do to this day. Okay? And so then it says here, 1 measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny. Okay? And so that would make bread from the wheat, beer from the barley, the body and blood. And with the culture moved, then it became bread and wine. 1 measure of bread is you. That's you. And the physical, the body, the intellect. 3 measures of barley is the blood. It's the life force. It's the trinity of Zeus, Hermes, and Apollo, of Jesus, the Father. It is the 3 of Supernova 1987A. And it says, don't hurt the oil and the wine. The oil, which is the anointing, which rises up through the spine to the pineal at the olive, at the hypoglossal, which is Christ rising through the oil of the spine to the pineal. So seal 3 will bring forth a great movement of people who are now hostile to you, or who pay no attention to you. And then it says in page 1005, and when he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed him, and power was given him over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. I don't know of another scripture in the Bible that points out the need for meditation more graphically than this one, which is the falling of the 4th seal. The pale horse is the physical world. It is the world that has hurt you all of your life. The name is death and hell. Death is the separation from life, the separation for consciousness, where we are constantly floundering in hell. So many people pass through this life experience on earth and spend their entire life in hell. Because we have a total misunderstanding of what hell is because of religion. Hell is not some place of eternal torment with demons sticking pitchforks and all that kind of stuff. Hell is a place that is in consciousness. It is a place of the mind. It is the torment that goes on inside of so many. It is the passion and the fire and the emotions which rage, and the demons are those things which race back and forth inside of our heads. And some people simply can't control it. But let me, you really should see it from the Bible itself that religion has not been true in describing hell. If you look on page 552, and you'll look in the book of Proverbs, and it says to you in Proverbs chapter 15, in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 24, it says, the way of life is above to the wise, that he may depart from hell beneath. You depart from hell beneath by lifting yourself in meditation, in consciousness, to that which is the higher realms of consciousness above. I mean, how clear does it have to be? If you raise your consciousness, you can depart from hell, which is the lower mind. So the 4th seal is the physical. It is the 4th part of the earth. The physical and the 4th part being the flesh, as opposed to the 1st, which is the spiritual. And to kill with the sword is the brutal violence of war. And we've seen so much of that. And the hunger and the beasts of the earth are the thoughts of the mind of the man. So you see the progression from the 1st through the 4th. We start off with the white horse, Pegasus, which is a constellation in Aquarius. Jesus said in Luke 22:10, the Passover will happen when you see the man with the pitcher of water. So we are at the time of Passover right now in Aquarius. We are about to pass over from the old structure of civilization to something that is brand new. We have lived through the winter of the soul and the civilizations of war. We are about to pass over to the new, which is the spring and the summer of the universe, which is that with the civilization of peace and healing. So we look in Aquarius, where we are now, conquering ignorance, conquering diseases, but also among us great confusion and violence. in a time when many people are weighing what they've been told by the systems of religion. That's why you're sitting here. Because you've weighed in your own hands what in the world is going on. What have I been told? And I've been told this by some New Age person. I've been told this by some fundamentalist. I've been told this by the press. I've told this, and I'm in the middle of all of this thing, and I don't know. It is the age of separation from the systems. It is the age of the time of the black horse of the individual. It is the time when you have to totally separate yourself from all groups, from all organizations, from all religions, from all nationalities, and you have to walk out into that field and look up into the stars and say, I am not an American, I am not a Christian, I am not a Jew or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim, I am not New Age, I am not Old Age, I am not vegetarian, I am just a person, I am just a human being, and whatever you are up there, it's just me and you. Then you'll know the truth. I just want to show you this last thing, and then you're out. In Revelation 6:9 is the opening of the fifth seal. And though I said before, I thought maybe we had been in the time of the second. I think now we're in the time of the fifth because, well, it says, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a long voice, saying, How long do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes are given, and it was said, Rest a little bit until your fellow servants should be killed as you, and all of this shall be fulfilled. It's the most interesting scripture. It brings us in the realm of the chakras to the fifth, which is called Vishuddhi, V-I-S-H-U-D-D-I. You can see that on page 88 of the material I gave you. And it matches with the fifth planetary discovery, which was Boots. And if you look on page 88, you'll see that same thing. You'll see the discovery of the planets that was made between 1995 and now. So the fifth seal is Vishuddhi, which is that fifth chakra. And at the fifth planetary discovery was Boots, which is the coming one. It's on page 88 of that material I gave you, okay? Now, there seems to be more of a coincidence here, Albert, because in the most ancient zodiac, I don't know how many of you realize this, but you have a zodiac which you look at now. There was a very, very ancient zodiac, the original one called Dendera, D-E-R-H-A, something like that. Dendera was the most ancient. In that original zodiac, something very curious happens here. This Boots in the original is called, Ara, which is the altar. This is what I wanted to tell you. And now, there's a constellation called Ara, which is the altar. All right? That I am comparing in Revelation chapter 6, because it says, when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar. The altar is a constellation named Ara. It's in Sagittarius. It has 9 stars. It's pointed upside down with the fire pointing down towards the earth. In the ancient, okay, that's the fifth seal. And as I said, in the fifth chakra is Vishuddhi, and the fifth planet discovered was Boots. But in the ancient Dendera, Ara is called Bau, B-A-U, which means the coming one. So Ara in the ancient Dendera is the same as Boots, which was the fifth planet discovered, which equates, to that which is the fifth seal in the book of Revelation. So the fifth seal, though it speaks of the altar, also is the fifth planet discovered, which is Boots. And now we find that the most ancient constellation of the altar was at that same time named Bau or Boots. So Boots is the fifth planet, fits in perfectly well with Ara, which is the fifth seal. Now, I told Norma today that when I said I had something interesting to her. Ara is located at right ascension 17 and 60 degrees. And I'm going to provide you with this material, which is a map, star map, which you can make 0.102. And it will show you the location of Ara, because it talks about the souls near. We'll go into this next time. Ara, the altar, both in a human and a cosmic sense, is important. Ara is located right next to the constellation Norma. And the word Norma means, in the ancient, the pattern. And in the Bible, what is so important about this is in Exodus 25:9, when it's talking about the construction of the holy temple and the altar, it says, according to all that I show you after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments, so shall you make it. So Norma is right next to Ara, which is the pattern of the temple or the altar, and Ara is also right next to Telescopium, which means far-seeing. I have also placed two other circles to show you the location of Supernova 1987A connection to Ara, and also to the constellation Fornax in connection to Ara. So, you know, when I think of how we feel now, it would seem that we might be at the point of the fifth seal. I saw under the seal the souls of them that were slain for the word and for the testimony that they held, saying, how long is it going to be? If there's one question that people ask me all the time, it comes from you and it comes from people on the internet, and it's like, tell them, how long is it going to be? When do you think this is going to happen? Where do you think this is going to happen? You see, the altar in the ancient church is the head, your head. This part where you sit was called the nave, N-A-V-E. It's the navel of the body. Now, if you're old enough and I think mature enough to handle this, the steeple of the church is the erected male penis. I wish you could see your face looking at me. Not one of you are daring to pick anywhere. That came from the time when Isis was looking for the body of Osiris. And she found 14 parts of Osiris's body. One part she didn't find. So she made a bronze mold of the penis of Osiris. And she made copies and sent it to all the temples and declared that it must be placed at the highest part of the temple. And that's where it was placed. So it's a human body. And of course, at that time, what they called phallic worship, which is the male organ, was very, very important to the people of the ancient time. In fact, you have in this Bible, you have an Old Testament, you have a New Testament, okay? In the old days, back in Genesis 24, when a person would testify, they would not put their hand over the heart. They would put their hand over the male organ, okay? And then they would swear when they placed their hand there. Now, if you look in your dictionary, you look anywhere, and you look up the word testify, you'll also see the word testes. Testes means the male organ, and to give witness, and that's where the origin of the word came from. And so testimony, testify, New Testament, Old Testament is directly related to the male organ. And so back in the most ancient times, in the time of Osiris, that's what they did, you see. And that's where it came from. Now, you know, it's difficult. It's very difficult for people to take the truth. Very difficult. But nonetheless, that's where it comes from. And I mean, you know, you have to reach a point where you get out of Sunday school. You have to reach a point where you're no longer a child. And you have to reach a point where you're mature enough to understand why these things were done this way. And so, well, what they did, well, they took the altar as the head in the church. They would take the bones of the people that died, who were the saints at that time, and they would bury them underneath the altar. And so then you would see here, well, this was done to, you know, coordinate with the scripture that said, and I saw under the altar the souls of them. But it doesn't say I saw under the altar the bones of them. It says I saw under the altar the souls of them, see? And Revelation is speaking of the altar not as a physical thing in a church, not as a physical thing of the human body. It is speaking of the higher realms of consciousness. And those immediately under the altar are those who have risen to that higher realm of consciousness. and in their meditation are found in that holy place. Those who have sacrificed through meditation. It's the same as the crucifixion taking place in the skull. The altar is located in the skull. The souls of those who have been killed in the testimony are those who have reached the kundalini, those who have been killed by the crucifixion of meditation, those who have been killed by the book of life experience. You and me thus call out to God and say, how long? How long will this go on? We're so anxious to see the light descend upon the earth and see the revolution of love topple the violent social structures of the earth. How long? And we all keep asking, and then God answers back to you. And this is the one thing, and this is the last thing we say, and I ask you to take it. Rest a little while longer, because there will be others who will be dying to the system just like you. And so you are given white robes, which are those beautiful ecstasies of meditation, which separate you from all of the thoughts, which are the coverings of pure nothingness, to flow in your meditative process and cover you from the stain of the lower mind. Be patient, because there are others who are about to follow you and follow after you and be killed upon the altar, which is Calvary. They will come along, and at that point, the time will come. And then it says the earthquake, and those come forth, and the sun becomes as black as sackcloth, and the moon is blood, and we'll cover that. But this is a magnificent and a beautiful time when people who are ready to give up the superstitions of the past, whether it comes from this group or that group, and ready to understand the symbolisms of the past so that they can join in this great celebration of this new age as Aquarius moves into position, and as the single eye of Supernova looks down, and the fire lights it, and the light comes upon the earth, and every eye seeing this upon the earth then will have that within them change in the direction of this new millennium, this new age, this new life, this new civilization, this new time of Christ or Krishna consciousness, this new time of peace and order upon the earth. So may this be for you, may it be for your family, and may there be peace at your house, and may there be an understanding of what is about to come. And may you totally disregard everything. I could care less. I mean, if you don't like me, that's irrelevant. Who cares? It's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. All I'm asking you is to understand, I have never said one word to you in this building that I did not document. I have never said one word to you in this building that I did not give you scientific documentation of it. Everything that I have told you, I have honored you as intelligent people and have trusted you, and I have been fair, and I have told you the truth. And so all I'm saying to you is, forget me, but please, please, please understand that what I have told you is happening in the sky over you right now. And it is an obligation on your part to share it, or at least tell it to your family and share the wonders. And it is an obligation for you to keep plugged into the CNNs and the newspapers and follow what is happening. Because when that time comes and the light comes and you look for me, then I may not be here. Because I've got other things to do. And so do you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you. Bye-bye.